I'll call to order the Planning Commission meeting of Brainerd, Minnesota. And roll call.
Gorham.
Here.
Grasula.
Here.
Duval.
Yes.
Peterson.
Here.
Powell.
Sorry.
Erickson. And Norwood.
Here. And Pledge of Allegiance. And then seeking a motion for approval of the agenda.
Move to approve. Second, Duval.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And looking for a motion for the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And for the record, Commissioner Erickson now here. And item 6, public forum. This is time allocated for citizens to bring matters not on the agenda to the attention of the commission. And time limits may be imposed. Is there anyone here for the public forum, for any items that are not on the agenda? And anyone online? Online. And so I'll open the public forum at 6:02. I suppose I should do that because that's a legal requirement. And I'll close the public forum at 6:02:20. And on to item 7A, unfinished business.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Keepers has submitted applications for a preliminary plat amendment and a PUD amendment for a proposed 176-unit apartment complex. Keepers originally submitted for the Voyager Heights development project in September for a 190-unit development. City Council determined at their December 15th meeting that the EAW was sufficient and the project did not require an EIS. Just of note, as a result of the EAW review, it was determined that a portion of the project was located in the city's drinking water supply management area, which is the DWISMA, and in a high vulnerability zone for surface water contamination. So with that, stormwater infiltration basins need to be moved outside of the DWISMA, and as a result, the plans changed. The 3 buildings and the site layout remain relatively unchanged on the north side. Again, 3 buildings, 38 units. The 2 buildings on the south side were combined into one larger 62-unit building, and then that stormwater retention basin was moved along Business 371. The fire marshal has reviewed the revised site plans and has no concerns about access. Staff have no concerns about the utility design at this time. The architectural features remain unchanged and meet the requirements of the zoning code. A landscaping and tree buffer drawing will be provided for the final submittal. A vegetated buffer where the wetland is located will remain to the north of the proposed development, which provides screening to the single-family homes to the north. Keepers is planning on logging off most of the pine trees on the property that were planted for purposes of harvesting. Those can be seen in the overhead map, and Max can, again, put up the GIS as well so you can see where the pine trees are located. Photometric plans are included and indicate that light does not leave the property boundaries. The proposed project does not meet the threshold of 250 peak hour trips or 2,500 new daily trips described in MnDOT Access Management Manual, Chapter 5.3, and a full traffic impact study is not required for this development. So with that, staff does not recommend any alterations to Greenwood Street at this time. The applicant has proposed a sidewalk on Voyager Drive. Again, staff had mentioned this in a previous meeting. Upon final approval and commencement of the project, the city could consider a future trail that would connect this development to Buffalo Hills Park and the existing city trail system. Timing and location of a potential trail is unknown at this time. I did receive a call from a property owner to the east who had concerns about the potential development next to his home and request the commission consider a 100-foot vegetated buffer be maintained between properties. He is here tonight. I do believe any decisions It would not need to be made tonight regarding a buffer, but staff can work with the developer before final approval to see what may be possible. This doesn't really affect the current development, but would be potential for future development. And again, the developer will be submitting a tree removal plan for the next meeting. So with that, staff recommends to hold the public hearing and then recommend approval of the PUD development stage plan and preliminary plat amendments. And I can answer any questions. Keepers is available tonight, as well as our city engineer.
Any questions of commissioners for city staff?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
James, I think there's sort of the cut and pasting. I think there's a couple of 5 units remaining in the findings of fact, but it's your intention as staff that any of those numbers cited in the findings of fact are really intended to refer to the reduction in density of the housing units. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I can go back through the findings. I thought I'd caught all of them, but potentially not.
Yeah, but for purposes tonight, if we're acknowledging that our intent is that we're talking about 4 units instead of 5.
That's correct.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions of staff? Should I open the public hearing and then questions of applicant? Okay. So we'll open the public hearing for preliminary plat amendment and development stage plan unit development for parcels 41020-691 and 41020-682. If the applicant would like to come forward to discuss the proposed changes.
Good evening, Chris Raymond, VP Architecture at Keepers. I'm here with Zach Rose now, he's an architect as well. Clarification on the tree removal. Can you put that aerial photo up again? We talked about pine tree removal. We're just looking at the plantation area of pine trees that are planted in a row. We're looking at about 20 acres of removal there. And the hardwoods that are directly adjacent to Tommy's place and the pine trees north there, those would remain.
Okay. And any questions of the applicant?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think the staff report stated that lighting would be contained on the property. If we could look at the photometrics, E3.5 and E3.6, I just want to, and maybe 3.6, yeah, that's showing sort of some of the park. To the east side of that, the road is comes pretty tight there, and I just want to confirm your understanding that building and pole-mounted lighting sources shall not be visible at the property line as described in the City Code 515.48E. So that luminary has to not be visible at a height of 5 feet or less to the ground. Is that your understanding, and the photometrics are designed to show that?
We'll comply with the city ordinance, 90-degree cutoff, right? 90-degree cutoff, downward directed lights.
And the luminary can't be visible. So at one of the building mounts or the pole mounts are up to, you're proposing some that are 20 foot high.
There will be some pole mounts at 20 feet. Yeah, and they'll be downward directed. There's a cut sheet right there in front of you.
Right. And just to be clear, that luminary will not be visible at the property line at a height of 5 feet?
I don't know, is that a code requirement?
It is a code requirement.
Okay, we'll have to adjust our cut sheet then to accommodate that.
Great.
Right.
Okay, thank you. And I think that southeast corner, I think, looked to me like probably the only place where you may have a potential conflict. If it's not a conflict, great. But if you do, if you can adjust your plan lighting system so that you're able to have that cut off at that property line, 5 foot or less.
Okay. We try to limit the amount of pole lights. There's a few of them there. Most of the site lighting will be accomplished by wall packs, wall-mounted lighting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it'll be the poles and the ones that are mounted on the buildings, just so that the source of lighting is not visible from that standard there at the property line.
We'll review that cut sheet.
Thank you.
There is an additional question about street lighting. We need to work out that detail as well. What kind of lighting requirements? Is that a lighting requirement?
So
Is
that's more in
is that
city.
something that'll be installed by the city, or is that something we install in the city?
That's a city policy, and we can have that in our next discussion.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any questions of any other commissioners of the applicant?
May I make a comment?
Yes.
There was a proposed 100-foot buffer adjacent to the western property line, and if you can pull up the preliminary plat, that's currently going to be platted as an outlot. So for us in the future to build on that lot, we did some broad brushstroke site plans there. Nothing set in stone. But for us to build on that lot, we'd have to come back and apply for a new PUD, correct?
That's
Anyway?
correct. So you'd have to be able to build on it, you'd have to come back. There aren't a lot of tree removal requirements built in unless there was something in the development agreement. Typically, property owners are able to remove trees. So, perhaps we could take a look at it and then advise Planning Commission on what that may look like in the future.
If it's a tree removal buffer, that's something that we can work out, definitely.
All right. Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you.
Any other members of the public that would like to speak on this item? And just a name and address, and
I'm the property owner on the west side of this 40.
for
Tom Thompson, 323 Woodland Hills Lane.
beautiful.
Yeah, what I was requesting is there's a buffer, like a tree buffer, on the whole west side of theirs. So it protects the single-family development that's on that side. I've had a lot more to say, but I'm just going to be brief on that.
Any questions of the commission? All right, thank you.
Yep.
And anyone else that would like to speak on the PUD amendment? All right, and I'll close the public hearing at 6:12 and bring it back to the commission table. And any discussion points or questions as far as commissioners?
I have a question for James. I see we have language now about looking at a pedestrian trail, on Greenwood. You use the term "should consider." I'm trying to define "should consider."
So again, if
This would be
the
5.5
if the property were to commence and develop, which is obviously Keeper's plan here, the city would definitely need to take a look at what could be potentially the best route. Where there be funds for future trail systems. So we do have a trail plan, and maybe Jesse can speak to it a little bit more. But again, we do review that from time to time, and something certainly to consider. Greenwood Street does have challenges with wetlands, so perhaps there's a different or alternate route that it could connect to Buffalo Hills Park. But I'll let Jesse, I guess, expand on that if he has anything else.
Thank you, James. Mr. Chair, James kind of hit some of the high points. The current walkable, bikeable plan does not show any trail or sidewalk planning on Greenwood Street. That's not to say that it can't be amended, but we have not broached that topic with the city council if they'd like to defer from that original plan. So that conversation has not happened. James also highlighted on the feasibility. We haven't really evaluated if it would even be a feasible installation to extend sidewalk or trail along Greenwood, because it is pretty tight in a few different sections with the wetlands. So to his point, we would want to explore that further in the future and maybe make a recommendation to the council if it makes sense that an extension or connection be made on Greenwood. It could be a potential for a different connection on an adjacent street, maybe be Crestview or Ridge. But we would have to evaluate that a little bit further.
Follow-up question. When is the last time the city's trail system, when is the plan, when was the last time it was updated?
The Walkable Bikeable Committee, I believe, was that plan was adopted in about 2014, if I remember correctly. It's due for an update.
I think it's something that should be on the Planning Commission's agenda for 2026, but that's another subject.
Any other questions or discussion items? Yes.
So regarding the request for the 100-foot tree buffer, it sounds like from public hearing, that would be acceptable to, sounds like all parties. However, given that that would be on that outlot, is that, sounded like that's not something we necessarily have to include in a motion tonight, being that they would come back, or?
I would recommend further review, as this request, kind of came in at the end of the day here, just to see, what we're looking at here. The outlot couldn't be developed without replatting, and then an amendment to the PUD, for this area. However, there could be some type of language in a development agreement for some type of vegetated buffer, to be maintained on there. You see across the street, on Business 371, there's a property owner there that cut all the trees and is doing an industrial park over there. Again, there aren't a lot of limitations in our code for removing trees if you are a property owner. So perhaps that's something to consider in a development agreement. But again, we do need to look at that from a staff and developer perspective.
All right, any other questions? Otherwise, looking for a motion?
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to accept the findings of fact as presented with one change. Specifically 5O, which I was talking about there. I'd like a language change from should consider to shall consider a trail. So that's my motion. Approval with one language change, one word change.
And looking for a second?
I'll second that.
And discussion?
Question for the motioner. So
Hey.
that was to approve the findings of facts with the change, doesn't touch the approval of the preliminary plat?
Yeah, well, this isn't the plat, this is the PUD, right? The first one's the PUD, is the first one the plat?
They could be done in one motion or they could be done separately.
Okay, well, the language change I'm looking at was referring to the PUD, because I think that's where the 5O has the should consider. I'd like to see that change to shall consider. So I'll make a motion for both. I mean, we can make that as a motion for both unless somebody would like to keep it as just one. Consensus?
I have a question.
Okay.
What do you mean by shall? Where does that put us?
Shall means instead of should, we should do it, but we don't have to. Shall means we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at a trail, and we're going to take it seriously.
But it may not be done still.
Well, shall has a little more power than should.
Okay.
And then Director Kramvik?
Yeah, so how I would interpret that is if shall is in there, it does mean that a trail would be looked at if the project doesn't commence. However, I don't think it would bind the city council to be putting a trail in because it's still a consideration, but would say that, it is going to be looked at.
And I believe that as an advisory committee, the council can amend our recommendation, correct? Okay. Yes.
Just to further clarify, so the language would be changing from should to shall consider. Should consider to shall consider.
Consider, yeah.
So it's still just consider.
Consider, I would like to just frankly say that there shall be a trail built. That's what I would like to see.
But
I don't
just-
see a consensus for that, but that's what I'd like to see. I'm just trying to emphasize it. That's what I'm trying to do, a point of emphasis. We haven't received a number yet of how many people are living in this unit. Is it 200 people, 300, 400 people? But I think you're creating an island of people without a viable place to walk or bike or use a motorized wheelchair. We're creating an island. And I would like to see that addressed. That's where I'm coming from.
Mr. Chair, yeah, I'm not opposed to it
Yeah,
anyway. Just
yeah.
wanted to clarify, because,
Sure.
following up on the question of, is this saying we have to build a trail? This shall consider, so,
Yeah, I'm just trying to emphasize it is what I'm trying to do.
thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
to clarify to staff, the issue of lighting, they're going to need to come back in a subsequent step in the PUD approval process to be able to propose a revised lighting plan. Am I correct on that? I'm trying to just not encumber the motion we have now because I think that's going to be dealt with in a future step. Am I-
So yeah, so we can adjust that lighting plan for the final PUD.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, so we have a motion and a second?
We do.
Okay.
And so just making sure that we're all done asking questions and discussing. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And that motion passes. Next steps for the applicant.
Yeah, so this will be heard at the next city council meeting. I'm pulling up my calendar here. So that'll be January 5th at 7:30 PM in the council chambers.
All right, thank you. And then on to item B, RFP for comprehensive plan. Director Kramvik.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff made the changes as directed by the Planning Commission at the last meeting. As you remember, we went over extensively the draft RFP for that, and staff did make those changes. You can see those redlined in that RFP. So with that, staff recommends the commission perform a final review and direct staff to bring the RFP to the next city council meeting for their final approval. And I can answer any questions.
Yes.
Mr. Chair. James, the future land use map would be a task of the Planning Commission and the city and not the contractor. Would that be a step in this process? I'm trying to recall without having the document in front of me.
I was planning on probably working on the future land use map part of it in order to kind of budget for some of the other portions of it, just because I'd have a pretty good familiarity with, you know, kind of what we've done and what we're looking at in other areas. So that was kind of a staff portion that I was going to work on.
So after all of the revisions that come out of the planning process, you would then try and apply those to the future land use map so we can have that fresh as well.
That's correct.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions of staff? Yes.
Can we bring that down a little bit so we can see the first 2 or 3 items there? I think we're at item 5. I think we had some, there we go, perfect. I'm still trying to see why we have the objective to increase the threshold of a mandatory EAW. I'm still trying to figure out why that's a need. If you could help me, James, on understand why it's a need?
Yeah, again, having all the components that are required by the 7-county metro would ensure that, you know, we're meeting all of the criteria that we're looking at for future development in our city. So it's certainly a higher level comprehensive plan. That's why essentially they get that allowance before a mandatory EAW is required. Obviously, we've been witness to an EAW for the Keepers project. It does take a bit more time and could potentially, you know, delay development projects or other requirements. So staff is recommending that we work with the consultant to get that higher level. But if the commission does choose that that's not an objective, we could certainly remove it.
I guess I have two points. So the first one would be, you talk about the 7-county plan. I don't know what you're talking about there. If we could get some information, or maybe it doesn't have to happen tonight, but if we can get some background on what it is. I hear it being referred to, but I don't know what it means.
I could get the exact counties. Obviously, it's the Minneapolis area, and
does it mean that they have such a high standard they don't need EAWs?
So they have a Met Council, and this is, I believe, how it goes. They have a Met Council that does require them just to have this, especially if they're over a certain population size, because there's a lot of decisions that are made land use wise, utility wise, to ensure that, you know, everything's being met as an objective throughout the entire Twin Cities metro area. So that's where they have these higher requirements. Smaller communities may not have strong comprehensive plans, so that's where they have these criteria If you're meeting this criteria, you can have the same kind of level that the Metro does, but if you don't have the same criteria, that's where you have that lower threshold.
So strong comp plan means a weaker EAW is okay? Is that what we're saying? I'm trying to distill this to one sentence here.
Essentially.
Okay.
You know, that stronger comp plan, you know, we're looking at utility infrastructure in the future. We're looking at multiple things that some other smaller cities may not have in their comp plan. So that's where you may not need, you know, a $30,000 to $40,000 EAW document if you're kind of checking all the boxes for development with your comprehensive plan.
I do want to point out that the EAW exposed that we hadn't considered the drinking water protection area. That hadn't been considered, and it probably wouldn't have been discussed unless we had an EAW. So to me, that's a point for keeping the EAW as it is. But that's my 2 cents worth.
Any other questions? I have one question. The EQB chair and adopt comprehensive plan. The EQB, I was having a hard time finding it within above. What does EQB stand for?
Environmental Quality Board.
Beautiful, okay. Any other questions of staff? Yes?
So again, just kind of to reiterate, I think a big focus and something that we've talked about in the past year is seeing how our comprehensive plan is implemented. I think that's going to be kind of the bulk of the work here. And then kind of as the consultant would be kind of more of an advisory on some of the other things of where our comprehensive plan is maybe missing the dot on it. But again, we're going to have multiple department heads and departments that would probably have to implement portions into the comprehensive plan in order to get that higher level of comprehensive plan. So I'm not sure, that consultant's going to be able to tell us what's needed in the comprehensive plan for some of the other measures, but the big focus would be how are we implementing our comprehensive plan and tracking those strategies.
All right. Any other items, discussion points? All right, seeking a motion regarding the comprehensive plan RFP.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move to approve the RFP and forward to City Council for final approval.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. And that motion carries. All right. Do we need to be, usually, anyways. So moving on to the next item. I believe it's the update for that item there. I just forgot what it's called. Conditional use permit amendment for St. Francis Catholic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So St. Francis Catholic Church has submitted a request for a conditional use permit amendment to add one additional garage stall to a church rectory that is currently under construction. The current approved plan has a 2-stall garage. The amendment would allow for the construction of a 3rd stall. The additional stall meets all required setbacks in the PSP district. The original CUP is to allow residential living in the PSP district, which is a requirement in that section. One of the criteria for granting the CUP is the proposed use shall be site-oriented and landscaped to produce a harmonious relationship of buildings and grounds adjacent to buildings and properties. So this is the big one that staff believes the Planning Commission City Council should consider. The applicant proposed an expansion of the attached garage for the rectory that faces Ivy Street. All the other properties on Ivy Street across from the school and the church have a driveway approach off Ivy Street. Again, garages facing streets are typical in North Brainerd for properties that do not have access to an alley, and the rectory is not adjacent to a platted alley. And the proposed addition meets all other criteria for granting CUPs. So with that, staff recommends to hold the public hearing and recommends approval of the conditional use permit amendment as presented. And I can answer any questions. The applicant is also present.
All right, any questions of staff? Yes.
Just one. Is there a reason why it wasn't part of the original?
So the applicant could probably answer that question better
Okay.
than I could.
We can wait for the hearing, but that'll be my question.
Okay. Any questions of staff at all? All right. Otherwise, I'll open the public hearing for conditional use permit amendment of, let me get back to the PID. 412-41705 at 6:30. And if the applicant would like to speak on the amendment, please do so. Just name, address.
Father Michael Gary, 416 North 9th Street. Originally, the hope for the church was to put a second garage on the west side of the property next to the church, because the point of building this bigger rectory is to house more priests, more than two. So we found out that was going to be a later project, but we found that replacing that garage would not be a big enough space. So we were hoping to amend the permit so we could have 3-car garage connected to the rectory.
Any other questions of, yes?
Yeah, so maybe I'm just gonna reiterate that. So initially you had planned to, in addition to the rectory, the other garage here to the west.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of that plot, bottom right corner of the square. There's a maintenance garage there. We're hoping to have a second garage with the maintenance, but given setbacks and everything else, it was just too tight to be able to fit it all. So we found after the fact.
Any other questions of the applicant?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Welcome, Father Gary. Your submittal didn't have any drawings of what's going on the second floor of the rectory, and if we could see the elevation drawing for the proposed changes, this one here, go down to the, would that be Ivy Street view there?
There we go.
Yeah. So in your previous design, without that additional stall, you have sort of an arched window that you've moved up, it appears, and then you have another window. So they're sort of blocked by the gable of that, or the ridge of that addition on there. And I was curious as to what is on the left side of this drawing, the east side of the building, and whether a window could be placed there. That's, if it's living quarters or those sorts of things, it seems like an additional safety outlet that fire crews could get in and so forth, and folks could egress. Plus, it would balance the aesthetic here of the lost windows that really look quite nice in the previous drawing when, that you had proposed. And I'm curious if that's living space there on that east side.
Yes, I just can't remember if it's the bathroom or if it's the bedroom on that wall. Do you remember exactly?
There's a bathroom.
A bathroom on that wall. So. There is a window on the east side of the building.
We just don't see that drawing perspective in what you've submitted. So there is, and I believe it must be a chapel or something on the 9th Street side.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm guessing from the shape of the window, so you're just moving that up, that just preserves the aesthetic from inside. It doesn't have function though, correct?
If you scroll down, here, let me help you guys.
And then Mitch.
Yeah, Mitch Beerben, High Tech Construction.
And the address.
11360 Business 371.
Beautiful.
All right, so as you can see on this drawing right here, this is how it's currently designed. Going back to the whole conversation about putting the third stall on, as we were going through the CUP, we met as a rectory committee once a month. And this conversation came up through the same process, so we were trailing with you guys, and we didn't want to muddy the waters as we were already so far into the process. Father Michael and I and the group met and talked, and long story short, Father Tony actually said, I need that third stall garage. I want to retire there someday, and he's a great friend of mine, and I said, we'll see what we can do. And so then we also had different variations of what it looked like if the street vacation didn't pass and how the building would lay out differently and long and skinny and so forth, so on. So this is what we presented for if the street vacation did pass and move forward. So as the time frame kind of went parallel together, this is where we come up with. All right, going back to your questions on aesthetics. So as you can see right there on that picture, the third stall garage, we have to figure out how to overframe our roof. So then to keep the snow off, we created a gable over the top. And if you scroll down on the next page, the window just slid up and we carried the gable out. And we haven't obviously built it. That's just what we're proposing at the time. Upstairs in that bedroom, if we can go down the next floor plan, do we have the upstairs on here? We don't?
Floor plan is just below the application. There you go. It does not have the second floor within our packet.
So it's similar, it's actually similar to this because we stacked the bathrooms and then the bedrooms are similarly stacked on the upstairs. And the window, the egress window is out what would be the east side. So the headboard of the bed would be up against that wall. So it might be possible for us to move that window. We just have to relook at the layout if we wanted to add the window to that. We haven't built it yet, so anything's possible. Questions?
I end up having just, so when looking at the floor plan, how many bedrooms upstairs?
We have 3 bedrooms upstairs.
Okay.
And then 1 single bedroom on the first floor and multiple bedrooms in the basement.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, just in conclusion, your design would allow for the addition of a window on that northeast wall.
I believe so.
Facing Ivy.
I believe so.
I just can't quite follow
Yeah.
the details of that drawing, but, okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any other questions of the applicant?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So looking at it, nothing's been built yet. I guess my question is, why did you add the third stall on that side versus potentially moving it up on the lot and adding it on the back of the house, which would have created more privacy back there and probably a better aesthetic?
So great question. Yeah, we have built the foundations in. We've got the first floor cap in the first floor all the way up to the second level floor joist on. So that's where we're at. And we are also long-range planning for future addition at the school for the street vacation and such. So we pushed this building as far to the east as we possibly could. So that our setback line on the east is right on that garage line. So we had to go that way. Otherwise, we'd have to push the building further that way. We got creative with what we could do if we could get this third stall garage.
And it was purely, I kind of thought that was the case. It's just purely, it'd be aesthetic and create more privacy. But if the foundation's already laid, it's already laid.
Yeah.
So.
And just to confirm, that is a bedroom behind that wall there?
And yeah, we could add a window on the second story if we needed.
Or move it?
Or move it, yep.
Just a quick question. So the foundation has been laid for the rectory, but not for the garage?
No, the garage foundation's in also.
So you put the foundation in for the garage, and now you decided to make a bigger garage? Okay.
Correct.
All right.
We had to follow these rules and follow the CUP. And so there is already a footing and ready to go if we were to do this, otherwise it's been buried.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just to follow up on that, you were approved to do all of that. The foundation for the third garage has not been laid.
The foundation
third stall.
for the third garage is underground poured in case this goes forward. If it never go forward, we can just cover it for old dirt and no one would ever know the difference.
So you put the foundation in for the third garage without getting the third garage approved?
No, go ahead, James.
Yeah, I want to explain that. Again, this is a CUP for residential living in the PSP district. A deck could be added to the back. Essentially, this would become a very expensive driveway if it's not approved, so the applicant was aware of that. In order to actually build and construct that third stall, it would need to be approved.
Yeah.
It's December.
Yeah,
If it was July, they wouldn't have to do it.
correct. I was fighting winter, and first call was to the city and said,
Yeah.
we're looking forward to doing this. I need to know if I can even move any concrete.
It just would have been nice to have this included in the original plan. That's my comment, that's all.
Yeah, we
Agreed.
agree with that, probably 100%.
Father Tony only would have let you know beforehand.
Right, exactly.
Any other questions of the applicant? All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Anyone else that is here to speak on the conditional use permit amendment? All right. I will close the public hearing at 6:40 for the conditional use permit amendment. Is there any questions of staff or discussion items that we want to have here?
Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. If I may, Mr. Chair, question of staff on the, to address adding another window, would that simply just be a condition of the conditional use?
It could be
permit that
added
we
to,
would add
it could be
to
added as a
staff?
condition.
We could add that condition to the staff recommendation here.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That was my question, Mr. Chair.
All right.
My question
Mr. Rowan.
for James, how common are three-car garages on Ivy Street? Tough question.
I believe, if I remember right, most of them were two-stall garages.
All right, all right.
Yes, Commissioner
Not
Erickson.
a question, just a comment. Well, Commissioner Duval, I thought it was a very observant and thoughtful question. I think the 3 stalls is actually aesthetically looks better, but I agree, I would lament the kind of the blocking of that window. So if it's something that we can add as a condition to move that window or add a window to the northeast part, I fully support that.
All right. Any other items or questions? Otherwise, seeking a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I move that we approve the conditional use permit amendment as presented with a additional condition to install a window on the northeasterly wall of the structure facing Ivy.
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion?
East side of the north wall, is that correct?
Correct.
Thanks. Give or take direction.
Beautiful.
Okay. I might be slightly confused, but I operate that way a lot. I believe the intent was well established within the public hearing. All right.
It'll be staff's job to tidy that up.
Yes. All right. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
And that motion passes 5-1. Okay. And next steps for the applicant.
Yep, so this will be heard at the next city council meeting, January 5th, 7:30 PM in the council chambers here.
You guys have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I believe that does it for new business. Moving on to item 9, staff reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So did want to update the commission. City Council did approve the rezoning, future land use map amendment, and the CUP for the Brainerd Animal Hospital on Oak Street. Also want to make the commission aware that the EDA approved $25,000 for facade grant for properties along Washington Street. So that's up to $5,000. It's a matching grant, as well as $15,000 towards signage improvements throughout the city. That's for next year. I'm hoping to roll that out sometime, probably early to late spring. Did also want to mention that Commissioner Gorham was reappointed to the commission at the last city council meeting. And we'll be doing the oath of office at the next planning commission meeting. And I'd like to thank Mr. Gorham for reapplying and for the service on the commission. And then also mentioned, I'd like to thank Commissioner Norwood for his time on the commission, as this is his last meeting, and it has been greatly appreciated. And then wishing all a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Moving on to item 10, Commissioner member reports. I'll start down at my right.
All right, I won't use all the time. I certainly want to echo thanks and appreciation to our current chair for serving on the commission. We'll miss that expertise on the council. And staff mentioned also that the rezoning recommendation from the Planning Commission was rejected, and that is within the authority clearly of City Council. The Planning Commission I like to think of as the guider, and City Council as the decider. And they decided differently from us, and that's certainly their prerogative and their role. I appreciated the discussion that happened because it was very insightful. I mean, I saw them raising and discussing the same issues that we struggled with. I saw them that, you know, how much they kind of struggled to reconcile a good project with the zoning tool that was chosen. So, I mean, I think we were in the same tracks on that. One of the things I heard from that discussion was several aldermen stated an interest in seeing commercial development extend westward on Oak Street from the Highway 25 intersection, and being that 18 and 25 are state highways. The perspective was that it seems appropriate to have commercial development follow those corridors. You know, with that in mind, you know, my question earlier on the comp plan, including the future land use map, I think we want to be sure to carry that point forward and have some discussion around that as a planning commission. You know, I foresee a collision of goals. And that was part of the challenge that we had at the commission here at last meeting. It was part of the challenge that the council wrestled with as well. And those goals are, you know, providing adequate housing for future housing growth in our community versus attracting new business investments. And both of those are important to the city. Are they compatible? I hope they are. Are they mutually exclusive? I hope they're not. But I'd also looked at, there currently you know, we now rezoned a parcel, two parcels there for the project that was proposed last month. There are still 6 remaining parcels that are undeveloped CN2 parcels. They're surrounded, as was the other one, with residential development along that part of Oak Street. You know, and so I ran some calculations to say, you know, what if we were to develop these into residential development using our CN2 zoning? I came up with potential for 127 to 380 housing units, depending on how you choose to go, whether you make like a Brainerd Oaks or whether you make a Voyager Heights or anything in between that range. That's a lot of housing units. And in comparison, we've got a greater number, more than 6 parcels in the city that are currently zoned for commercial development or are vacant and already zoned. And so these are what, general commercial, the commercial corridor along 210, Town Center, Main Street, and the makers and employment zoning categories allow those commercial uses. So the fact that, you know, these are already zoned doesn't result in a net loss of housing capacity for our city in the future. But when we convert residential zoning to commercial zoning, we remove residential potential. And that was the thing that we struggled with last month. So we're, in effect, according to the housing study of Crow Wing County here, we're still looking to come up with somewhere better than 1,500 new housing units in the next 7 years. We're not really making super headway here, and at the same time, we're making choices that pull residential parcels off of the books and putting them into some other use that's not compatible. So you're taking 10 to 20% of are needed growth off the table when you're talking about 127 to 380 housing units. So I'm suggesting that, like Mr. Gorham did earlier, I'm looking to put a placeholder on a 2026 agenda for our work plan to really prepare ourselves this coming year for, and with the guidance of staff here to help us and to facilitate us to grapple with that specific challenge of how do we look at places like Oak Street and not lose the residential development capacity that we're going to need in the near future. And we're talking housing types of all kinds. This is the affordable housing, this is market rate housing, this is senior housing, this is move-up housing, this is entry-level housing. It's all the gamut that housing study calls for that we need. And so we need to be really laser focused on not taking things off of the table so that we can hopefully continue to work toward that goal of getting that new housing on the ground. So that's my placeholder for the 2026 work plan, and I thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
If I may, City Engineer Dean, the Oak Street is slated for some work coming up in the future here, if I recall correctly.
Yes, sir. Reconstruction project is slated for 2029.
Okay, and so the reason why I bring that up is that time within the comprehensive plan and what you're bringing up, Commissioner Duvall, might be of paramount within the conversation as to the development and the infrastructure and the work that's going in it. The discussion needs to happen. It's quickly approaching, similar to 210 in Washington. All right, Commissioner Peterson.
I have nothing.
Okay, Commissioner Gorham.
A few things. I want to thank the City Council for being willing to put up with my contrarian impulses for another 3 years. I do appreciate that. Speaking to what Commissioner Duvall's points there, I think we see this dynamic between the City Council and the Planning Commission. I look at it as principles versus pragmatics. We're really a principle-based organization. And the City Council, I get where they're coming from, but I think the principles tend to run into the buzzsaw of we want to get it done. And that's good, but if you have too much of that, you become short-sighted. And I think that's what's so important about our role is that we keep a long view of things, and that we're actually planning as opposed to just kind of reacting. And I think that's the position the City Council sort of gets into, is just kind of reacting. And I get why they're doing that. And also going back to Mr. Duvall's points too of how we have large stretches through the town, especially the whole Washington Street drag, where capitalism has just kind of said, we're done with this area. We're moving on. We don't need this area anymore. We're going to move to other areas. And so what you run into is kind of abandoned areas. And there's several stretches on Washington Street that are pretty much abandoned. And that's a shame. That's the heart of the town. And so I think that becomes the challenge to, instead of saying, well, we've got some undeveloped land on Oak Street, what the heck, let's develop that, is try to bring it back towards the heart of the city, back to the areas that maybe capitalism has decided are inefficient and the lots aren't big enough and has decided to move on from. Don't get me wrong, I'm a capitalist myself. But I think we have to, it's our responsibility to keep this a larger view of things and this balance, and to try to actually build the city back up and not let the core of the city just become abandoned as it has over the years. So that's my 2 cents worth, again.
Thank you. Commissioner Grasula?
I do have comments tonight.
Okay.
They will not be very lengthy, though.
Okay.
I just wanted to thank staff for their work over the last year, and the other commission members for their work over the last year. And I would like to wish you good luck, Chair Norwood, with your future endeavors, and thank you for your service on this commission to the city.
Thank you. Commissioner Erickson.
Congratulations, Commissioner Gorham, and thanks for your willingness to serve in this capacity again. And Commissioner Norwood, you'll be greatly missed, so I'd like to extend a thank you to you as well. And then just a couple comments, just piggybacking, I'm glad you brought up the Oak Street reconstruction, I was going to as well. In addition to just Oak Street reconstruction, specifically it's that eastern portion of Oak Street. And as I'm sure Jesse could speak more eloquently about, there's included in that is a corridor study. And so, very timely, given the comprehensive plan conversation, but within that, that project specifically, there'll be a corridor study included. So, I think all timely and good discussions. And I mean, I think we've had, just to touch on the decision from council regarding that 28th and Oak Street property. You know, I think it was a tough call. You know, I was actually a little nervous because we had one member was missing and we needed to have a supermajority to override the decision. And, you know, whenever I think the term spot zoning had come up a couple times, and I know that, in fact, I think, Commissioner Gorham, I like how you put that, principled over pragmatics. I think it's very well put. In fact, after the meeting, I had messaged somebody something very similar. It's like, you know, if it was a completely different situation where I said the context of the corridor is such that I voted for it, given the growth, given the conditional use permits, given the requests we've had right in that area recently, I felt like it was a close enough call where pragmatics could win out over I guess, principle, you know, sticking to the comp plan in that sense. So, which I'm fine saying that because, you know, you can't be so rigid that you're not going to allow for, I guess, growth when it happens. If it was a housing development that was knocking on our door for that area, as is the case in on Greenwood, perhaps it could have gone a different direction. So, but I agree with a lot of the comments made, and it's good. This is the planning commission's the place to vet a lot of those things, and I think there was a thoughtful conversation and with both groups. So.
Thank you. And finally, thank you all for the opportunity. It has been a pleasure and an honor. I wish you all the best in the new year. I would suggest that all commissioners take a moment to think about where and how they would like to, you know, potentially sit as far as chair, vice chair, those kinds of things, or have in mind for that January meeting nominations in their own head, just for the sake of continuity and hitting the ground running in the new year. And my last is Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you all. And last item.
Mr. Chair, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Aye.